Hello, welcome to today's webinar titled Shaping Our Peer Learning Community, Kickoff for Advancing Adaptation Implementation. This is the first webinar in the Advancing Adaptation Implementation webinar series. My name is Suzanne Sealing with the Climate Risk Institute, and I will be the facilitator for today's webinar. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that I live and work on the traditional lands of the Atacamishning, Anishinaabeg, and Wahnapitae First Nations within the Robinson-Huron Treaty Territory. I honor the enduring presence of Indigenous peoples on this land and their continued stewardship of it. For today's webinar, I have my colleague and project partner, Sharman, who will provide support. Sharman and I will be available during the webinar if you run into audio or technical issues. To ask us a question, open the chat box, use the drop-down arrow. You can locate my name, Suzanne Sealing, or Sharman Dilruba, and you can send either one of us a private message. We have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the webinar, but please don't hold your questions. Enter them into the chat box throughout the whole event. We are recording the webinar today and we'll send out a link to everyone who has registered, along with a copy of the presentation slides. For those of you who are less familiar with us, the Climate Risk Institute is a nonprofit, academically affiliated organization. Our team delivers services focused on advancing practice in areas of climate change risk assessment, adaptation planning, policy evaluation, resiliency, and more. We run programs and develop and coordinate projects to mobilize knowledge, improve capacity, and increase climate resilience across different sectors and regions of Canada. We also work closely with many partners across Canada and internationally and leverage the knowledge and skills of a strong group of associates. Today's agenda will begin with setting the context. So we're going to provide a background and a purpose of the webinar series. Why are we here? Why are we meeting? We would then like to get to know who is here with us with a few audience warm-up questions. We will provide an overview of the Implementation Insights project and how it relates to the peer learning group. We have a guest speaker today from CanAdapt, which is the host platform for our peer learning group. And they will provide an overview of the host platform for us. After a short walkthrough of the platform, we will move into breakout rooms. And this is when you'll have an opportunity to really shape the development of the Advancing Adaptation Implementation group. We're really hoping you'll provide your ideas here. We'll regroup after that. Here's some highlights from what the groups discussed and close. Okay. Without further ado, let's get started. So one thing that we've observed in our engagement throughout this project is that there's still a question in some of the natural resource sectors about, well, what is climate change mitigation and adaptation? For some of you on the call, that might feel like very beginner, but I think really it comes down to the different sectors have different language. It's different language. So here we're just going to say what we mean by mitigation and adaptation. So both of these terms respond to the climate crisis, right? But in very different ways. So one tackles the causes and the other manages the consequences. Climate mitigation is about preventing the problem from getting worse. This focuses on stopping greenhouse gas emissions at their source through actions like transitioning to renewable energy, improving energy efficiency, reforesting landscapes, and advancing carbon capture technologies. Adaptation, on the other hand, is about managing the effects. It acknowledges that some degree of change is always already happening, and it aims to help communities, ecosystems, industries adjust to those impacts. Examples here would be designing resilient infrastructure or developing drought-resistant crops, implementing early warning systems for extreme weather, for instance. but they both matter. So they're two sides of the same coin. But focusing on only mitigation leaves us unprepared for the impacts we're experiencing. And that's why our Implementation Insights project emphasizes adaptation. So we're helping bridge the gap through shared learning and practical solutions across natural resource sectors. So as we move through the series, just keep this distinction in mind. It frames how we think about climate resilience and where we can make the most immediate impact. Okay, and when we talk about adaptation implementation, we're really talking about action, about putting our climate plans into practice. And it's that critical step where goals, policies, and strategies move off the page and start creating real, measurable resilience on the ground. Really, in simple terms, it's about moving from planning to doing. And many organizations already have climate strategies in place. The challenge now is how to make them real in day-to-day operations and decision making. Let's look at a few examples of what adaptation implementation can look like in practice. So for in forestry, adaptive forest management would work to reduce wildfire risk while maintaining healthy ecosystems. So that might mean new harvesting practices, better monitoring, integrating indigenous knowledge to support ecosystem resilience. Or there's climate-informed operations. So that would be using data, risk maps, projections to make safer decisions in sectors like energy and mining. This might, for example, specifically be adjusting operational timelines based on temperature or precipitation forecasts. So really, adaptation implementation is where plans become practice and where resilience really starts to take root in the systems. Okay, so why this series? Why now? Well, across Canada, we know we're experiencing warmer temperatures, shifting precipitation patterns, and these are contributing to more frequent and more intense climate-related events like heat waves, floods, droughts, wildfires. These are no longer in isolated incidences, they're a part of a clear and accelerating trend. Canada has made significant progress in understanding and planning for adaptation. For instance, the National Adaptation Strategy released in 2023 represents the country's first comprehensive national framework to address major climate risks. Complementary efforts include Canada in a Changing Climate reports. These synthesize research. They include case studies on impacts and adaptation. There are also tools like climatedata.ca that helps decision makers access localized climate information to guide action. There are also numerous sectoral and regional initiatives underway, which demonstrate great momentum across jurisdictions. Despite this progress, Canada's adaptation approach remains largely reactive and under-resourced. While we've laid a strong foundation, the scale and urgency of climate risks demand faster, more coordinated action to safeguard Canada's people, economy, and ecosystems. The climate adaptation planning process is not a one-time activity. It's a continuous cycle that evolves as our understanding and conditions change. This cycle starts with understanding and raising awareness. So we start by identifying how climate change could affect our region or our sector. Things like conducting vulnerability assessments, risk assessments, assessing exposure, but also building awareness among stakeholders so everyone understands why adaptation is necessary. Following that, you move into developing a plan. So once you understand the risks, then you design strategies and actions to reduce those impacts. This could mean setting priorities, identifying resources, making sure adaptation is integrated into broader planning and policy processes. Then we move into implementing actions. This is where plans turn into practice and what we're really focused on here. So implementation can include anything from updating infrastructure and revising management plans to community-based initiatives or pilot projects. After that, you move into monitoring and learning. So this is how you monitor and evaluate whether the actions that you've implemented in step three are working. Are they effective? What needs adjusting? And then you feed that into the next planning cycle and you start it again. So adaptation is iterative. And as climate conditions, technologies, and priorities evolve, we always return to step one and continue refining our approach. It's really about learning and improving over time. It's not just completing a checklist. All right. So we have a small group, so I think in hindsight, I would have preferred to hear you off your microphones, but we have some poll questions. Let's do that here. All right. So our first question to kick it off is, which sector do you represent? And I'm realizing I should have had a cross-sectoral or multi-sectoral option here, but okay, great. Um, So three are in forestry, four in energy, none in mining, and six are in other. If you would like, you can enter your information about your sector or what organization you represent in the chat box. We'd love to hear from you out there. Okay, question two. Sorry. Where are you joining from today? Okay. Um, Fantastic. So great representation in the West, Central Atlantic, Northern. That's fantastic. No outside of Canada, which makes sense. Okay, super. Question three. Now, where are you in your adaptation journey? So I didn't quite match these or mirror these to the steps in that slide that I just spoke to, but you can line it up pretty well. So just exploring learning is probably that early stage of adaptation planning. You're creating awareness, you're understanding the issue, maybe identifying your risks, and then you're planning adaptation actions. You're maybe writing a strategy or a plan. You're in early implementation, so you just started to, or you're about to start implementing those actions. You're fully underway, actively implementing projects, or you're monitoring and evaluating. Okay, that's very interesting. So, the majority are actively implementing projects. I like to hear it. Sounds like you came to the right place. But some are in the early phases. There are three who are planning, two in the early, and then one are in the monitoring and evaluating phase. So that's really fantastic to know. Great. And our final question is for fun. If you could work anywhere outside today, where would it be? In a forest, on the coast, in a mountain cabin, or in the city? Mhm. Coast or in a forest are the top ones. Mountain cabin and city. Fun. Cool. Great. Thanks everyone for participating. Um, good, good. Okay. So let's keep moving on to our next slide here. Sherman, I'll just get you to, there we go. Thanks. All right. So now let's tell you about the project. So this project is being supported by Natural Resource Canada's Climate Change Adaptation Program, and CRI is leading this Implementation Insights project. So the project is focused on advancing climate adaptation implementation in Canada's natural resource sectors, but the project specifically focuses on forestry, energy, and mining sectors. And the peer learning group is open to all natural resource sectors, just to make that distinction. But as part of our project specifically, we're digging deep into those three sectors. And what we're doing is we're looking to what drives or hinders action. So what are the motivations, the supports, and the barriers that decision makers and practitioners experience when moving from planning to implementation? And our goal with the project is try to turn all the insights that we get from practitioners into practical tools that help close this persistent gap. So what I didn't mention in the background section is that implementation is really lagging in Canada and in fact globally as well. So that's really what motivated this project in and of itself is why. Why is that? So we're hoping to take everything that we're learning and develop some sector-specific knowledge products, things to help guide users and support that real-world adaptation action. Um, Key objectives. So we are identifying and analyzing drivers, enablers, and barriers. So this is what I just said to help understand what's hindering or driving implementation, followed by gathering real world insights, co-developing tools and recommendations, foster peer learning. Those are some of the high level goals about the project. And I'll just note that we have a really fantastic stewardship committee. They oversee and guide the project. We're really, really thankful for their ongoing participation and support. And so the project runs from 2024 until December 2026. In the first year, we developed a framework to categorize and define drivers, enablers, and barriers. We conducted a literature review and also analyzed 30 case studies. And these case studies we've compiled into a spreadsheet, which we call the catalog of drivers, enablers, and barriers. And the framework considers different types of categories like institutional, financial, technical, and governance. And then we link these to the type of adaptation that they influence, such as physical measures or management practices. We're also documenting contextual details, things like geography, equity considerations, and relevant resources. So this catalog is acting as our foundational reference tool to summarize how and where drivers, enablers, and barriers operate across Canada in those three sectors. And then so in year two, we've been focusing on the last several months on validating and deepening our understanding of this list of drivers, enablers, and barriers. So this is a preliminary list, and it's changing all the time. Anytime we undertake engagement or we review our survey results, for example, it's being updated. So we've been busy with that, and this webinar series is going to also help with this portion as well. And we're going to take all of this that we learn and put it in a comprehensive report to summarize our findings and aim to put out some recommendations on how to take advantage of enablers and barriers and over enablers and drivers and overcome those barriers. And then, like I mentioned, we aim to create some support tools. Okay. Yeah, and then just a couple other project activities are these knowledge exchange sessions like we're doing, and then the launch of an online practitioner network, or in our case, a peer learning group. So also this focus of this webinar as well. I'm gonna pause and just see if I'm gonna check the chat to see how we're doing. Welcome, Cameron. Hi, Kaylee. Hi, Kara. Edward, Nelda, fantastic. Okay, so no questions in the chat right now. No problem. All right, so there's the project, and one of the outputs of the project is the peer learning group, right? So the idea is that the project is going to end, it has an end date, but we would like the peer learning group to live on, and for it to remain active. So people have a platform and a place to go to where they can continue to exchange ideas and lessons learned. The platform's hosted on CanAdapt, and we'll receive a nice overview of CanAdapt in a little bit. And the practitioner or the peer learning group is free, and it's open to anyone who's interested in making progress on climate change adaptation. We'll show you how easily it connects you to other practitioner networks with different focuses. So it's a nice sort of interconnected system there. And what we want this peer learning group to do is like I said, have people come and share their real world experiences. We want them to come and access tools and resources on this topic, hopefully join discussions and groups, and build ongoing collaborations. It's really not aimed to just be a repository, but rather a living community that supports continuous learning and connection. Okay, good. So now I'm going to introduce my colleague here. Niharika, are you with us still? Great. Okay, so I'll introduce our colleague at the Climate Risk Institute. Niharika Bandaru leads community engagement for CanAdapt, guiding content strategy and practitioner network development to strengthen collaboration and resilience among climate adaptation professionals across Canada. Niharika is a sustainability expert with over 6 years of experience. She also serves as co-chair of the Great Lakes Water Quality Board's Climate Change Adaptation Working Group and founded Windsor of Change, a nonprofit advancing climate education in Essex, Windsor. So with that, I'll pass it off to you, Niharika.
Thank you, Suzanne. And hello, everyone. Thank you also to Sherman to helping me through these slides here today. I am Niharika, and I'm the community lead for the CanAdapt project at CRI. I'm really happy to be introducing you to CanAdapt, the platform, what part it plays in building climate resilience in Canada, and how the implementation insights peer learning group fits into this ecosystem. Next slide. When we talk about CanAdapt, go back. Yeah, when we talk about CanAdapt, we like to describe it as a climate adaptation accelerator. It's built by and for people working directly on adaptation challenges. We envision it to be a shared space, one that brings together professionals like yourselves from across sectors like forestry, energy, mining, infrastructure, and beyond to help each other move faster from ideas and to real world, real time action. What makes it really special is how it combines human connection with smart tools. The platform uses AI-enhanced knowledge systems to make learning and collaboration much easier so that insights are not siloed and people can connect across projects and regions. The big picture, really, with CanAdapt, it's all about capacity building. We're helping Canada's workforce and community leaders grow the skills, partnerships, and the confidence to turn adaptation ideas into something tangible on the ground. Next slide. So CanAdapt is hosted by CRI, and which is us, and the Resilience by Design Lab at Royal Roads University. And it was really born out of a need to support climate adaptation across sectors through upskilling and workforce development. CanAdapt is supported by the Natural Resource Canada's Climate Change Adaptation Program, and this support really allows us to expand the platform across multiple sectors, starting again, like I said, with infrastructure, forestry, mining, and now we're extending into mining and energy. The Implementation Insights project is a great example of how NRCan's investment is enabling peer-to-peer learning and real-world application. Next slide. So once we have that national foundation through NRCan, the real question really is, how does CanAdapt create impact? So let's think about this in three ways. First, we upskill Canada's workforce by helping practitioners across sectors build the skills and confidence they need to respond to climate-driven challenges. That might mean new technical skills or simply learning from peers who've been there, done that before. Second, it's about connecting communities because resilient cannot be built in isolation but needs community. So the platform connects professionals across various sectors and helps them share intelligence, resources, and support. And the third is by accelerating real world impact. Turning all those connections into action. We really want CanAdapt to be the place where ideas, people, and projects meet, where adaptation starts to scale across the board. Next slide. And everything in Canada really starts with community. Our practitioner networks, if you want to click again, are the heart of the platform. These are spaces where people doing adaptation work can come together around those real world challenges that we mentioned. Each network develop its own identity, but they're united by the purpose of sharing solutions, talking about lessons learned, supporting one another into turning ideas into action. So let's now take a look at the growing ecosystem of these practitioner networks and also peer learning working groups like this one. And these are essentially the communities that make up CanAdapt. Next slide. So we've got a plethora of various practitioner networks and working groups. We've got the Forestry Adaptation Network that focuses on forest management, ecosystem resilience, and knowledge exchange with support from the Canadian Forest Service. We've got the Infrastructure, Buildings, and working group that is sort of a self-moderated working group, which is one of the longest running communities of practice on CanAdapt. We've got our Iraq project, the Manara Working Group. That's an internationally linked network, again, in Iraq, connecting adaptation practitioners across borders. And we've got the emergent practitioner networks, the energy and mining ones, that are exploring how low carbon resilience and climate adaptation applies and how to support that and essentially advance practice in their industries. And then we've got the Implementation Insights peer learning group, which is why we're here today. And this is the one that's just getting started. It's a place again to learn from projects that are the project that Susanna earlier mentioned that's already underway, and bring that knowledge back to work and connect and advance practice in these sectors. So each of these groups are interconnected. There are opportunities for cross-pollination, and they're essentially part of one ecosystem designed to help Canada learn faster, connect wider, and adapt better. And now that you've seen the people and the networks on CanAdapt, let's look at how the platform itself supports that work and essentially the tools and features that make that collaboration possible. So CanAdapt is essentially your shared workspace. So it's a digital home for the people doing adaptation work. Everything on the platform is organized around three big ideas: learn, connect, and adapt. Today, I'll kind of give you a quick sense of what each of these mean and how they'll become increasingly useful for groups like peer learning groups like Implementation Insights. Next slide. Under Learn, CanAdapt helps practitioners grow the skills and knowledge they need for climate resilience. So the knowledge base is a feature that gathers reports, guides, and tools across sectors, all in one dynamic searchable space. The course and program portal connects you to courses and certifications across Canada of relevance to climate adaptation professionals that want to advance again their skills in climate adaptation and resilience, and think of it as a kind of a national catalog for professional upskilling. And very soon we'll have an AI concierge service which will help tailor that experience so you can focus your learning from the knowledge base and the course and program portal on what's most relevant to your role, your region, your industry. Next slide. The connect pillar is really where the community aspect comes alive. The project hub lets practitioners share their ongoing initiatives, who's working on what, essentially, how projects are progressing, and what needs projects may have. The practitioner networks and working groups that we discussed earlier are really the heart of the connection, as this is where the peer-to-peer shared learning and collaboration occurs. The practitioner networks are larger structured communities with governance structures led by strategic direction. And then there are working groups and peer learning groups like this one, Implementation Insights, that are more focused spaces for discussion and collaboration, where that learning really gets applied in practice. Next slide. The forums and chats are, can you go back? Sorry. Thank you. The forums and chats features are also available to practitioners on the space. This is where people can post questions, share lessons, and collaborate across sectors. And the newsletters and events highlight what's emerging: webinars, workshops, even hackathons that can bring people together around shared challenges. And the practitioner networks and working groups and the peer learning working groups are all supported and enhanced by these features. And finally, adapt is where all of this turns into action. The knowledge systems and AI concierge that I mentioned before use natural language tools to help people find information quickly and connect with others doing similar work. The automated summaries and alerts are a feature, again, available to everybody on the platform that helps people stay up to date on projects, knowledge hubs, course and program portals, and Europeans. So those are basically the building blocks of Learn, Connect, and Adapt, and this is CanAdapt, which I really enjoyed bringing to you today. Together, we're looking at a shared ecosystem where communities and peer learning working groups like Implementation Insights can grow and collaborate. And we'd love to invite all of you to join us by signing up and exploring CanAdapt at canadapt.network. I'm going to hand it back over to Suzanne, who's now going to walk us through what this looks like in practice. Basically, how to join your group, share ideas, and explore resources directly inside CanAdapt. Thank you.
Thanks, Niharika. That was wonderful. I'd like to pause if there are any questions. And also feel free to raise your hand to ask over your microphone, or you can enter your questions in the chat as well. Okay, so question, is there a difference between the peer implementation group and the practitioner networks?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. So yes, there are nuanced differences between two. The practitioner networks are really much more structured. They've got governance models, and they're ongoing initiatives. They're larger communities, essentially with very strategic directions. The groups and the working groups and the peer learning groups are more focused. They're smaller, not so much with a governance model attached, and might just be in place for a finite amount of time based on the project. So yeah, those and they're much more focused. I think there is specific outputs related to these focus groups or the working groups more, and then the PNs can have multiple working groups within them. They can have peer learning groups attached to them. So that's sort of how they're structured.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree entirely. And the for us, it's the topic, right? So our learning group is very specific. We're focused on implementation in natural resource sectors. And I'll go to show you that the practitioner networks are more of an umbrella topic. So mining in a practitioner network in mining, in forestry, and so forth. Thanks for the question. Okay, so let's I'm gonna share my screen now. Um, okay. Okay, sometimes the bar is in the way. Is it sharing okay?
Yeah, you can see the bars.
Why that does that for mine always? Is that out of the way at least a little?
Yeah, it's slightly out
Okay.
of the way, but you've got a bar to your right.
Huh.
Yeah, it's better now.
Okay. Okay, so to access the peer learning group, we will enter the URL in um, your preferred Explorer, CanAdapt.network. And then it opens you up to the main page here. At the top right, you can click sign in. Or if you don't have an account, to create a new account, you'll go don't have an account, create an account now. And there's actually it'll guide you. It's a guided process to help you set up your profile really efficiently here. So I'll just sign in. All right, so here I am. There's my profile at the top. And actually I have a couple of notifications. So you are yay! Started following Energy Practitioner Network, and Baburam started following our peer learning group. So that's that's nice to keep me informed on the activity. So to get to a quick way to get to our peer learning group is I'll just add in the URL / adaptation implementation. Okay, so here's our group, and uh, this is early stages. So what we really want to hear from you in our next segment, which you'll go into breakout rooms, is things related to what menu items do you want to see here? I can customize that quite a bit. Right now I've added projects. So this is where you'll find information on the project. And then under updates, you can see updates that have been happening, and you should also be able to post your own update for others to see. So you can comment on those updates as well. And this updates go directly into your inbox in your email. So that's a nice sort of mini newsletter way. Under resources, we're still figuring out how to improve the resource library, trying to make it a little bit more like thematic or able to filter a, a little bit better. But for now, we have news articles in the forestry sector. I have resources related to the group itself. So if you want to access the promotional flyer information sheet, you can access that from here as well. So we're trying to build this up. And then events will show events that are related to the group itself, but then also third-party events. So if there's an event that's being hosted by another organization that's related to our topic, we can add them here for everyone to know about. And then under networks, you'll see next networks refers to the practitioner network. So that's that difference between the peer learning group and the practitioner network. So I've connected practitioner networks that are related. So here I can click on any of these and it will take me to that network where I can follow it and explore it and connect that way. And then the other piece is the forum. So we've heard that this is a nice or like a desired feature for a lot of online communities of practice. This way you can browse topics. It's like a question board, really. You can talk back and forth. You can also browse other topics and tags that are on here. There's different channels too related to the other networks on CanAdapt. And there's an instant messaging chat function as well. So we're hoping to get some more action in here. I'll post some questions and try to get some topics going. But please, we encourage everyone to do the same. Okay. And we also, if you notice on the right here, you have an AI chat function. So you can ask different questions about the group or about CanAdapt. You see I've added ask questions before. And then on the left here, you'll see it'll bring you to different menu for CanAdapt, so the bigger platform. You can see updates that are coming in from other members or from other networks as well. You can filter for just your network. So it has that tag to show this came from the Forestry Adaptation Network. There's also just updates that I've written out. So that's about it in a nutshell. I don't want to overwhelm you too much, but really encourage you to create an account and look through it if you haven't already. Okay, just some questions. So will working groups be regional as well as based on topic? They can be, absolutely. So from our peer learning group, we can actually create groups within those or topics within those that are thematic or based on geography as well. Get an error message when I click sign in from the sign in email. Okay, that's interesting. I'll connect with you after, Kara, about that. Oh, there's Jane. Jane is our operations lead, so she knows the platforms inside and out. She'll be great to help as well. Okay, Charmaine, could you just share back the slides?
Can you see it now?
Double click to enter. Oh, there we go. It's loading up. Okay. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Okay, and you can move one ahead. Perfect. Alrighty, so it is 1:45. This gives us a lot of time to break out into our groups, and we have put in a mural board there, questions to help guide your discussion. And it's up to you. You can self-organize, so you can have one person capturing notes on the sticky notes, or you can all stay quiet and write your notes down. All that we ask is when we do return, we would love to hear from each of the groups, some of your key insights, or perhaps you had an aha moment or something that really stood out to you. So go ahead and click on the mural board, and I will move you into your breakout groups. Great. Welcome back. It's funny how it feels you have a lot of time and then it goes really quickly. Not to worry. We had two groups in the breakout, and we would really like to hear some of your insights or what stood out to you that you talked about or that you had even thought of yourself and might have added on a sticky note. Is there someone in group one who wants to start us off?
I'm happy to go unless anyone wants to jump in.
Yeah, please, Kara.
So we talked about the biggest barriers to implementation and how limited capacity and resources comes up as a theme, and it's just a problem for all sectors, all communities. And so how do you look for opportunities to overcome that lack of resources, time, and money? And so it's basically about sharing, and not just resources, but case studies, and making time for people to talk. So different communities. I was sharing how I was at a workshop yesterday on implementation. It was basically a bunch of communities, small communities who don't have enough resources, but just sharing with each other how they implemented their various projects was really helpful for people. So it's just about like putting value on those time to tell stories and talk with each other.
That's great, and I'm happy to hear that that topic is being talked about. Anybody else from group one would like to share?
I just want to say I really liked what Cameron actually put into the chat. It's having that oh, sorry, Cameron, why don't you elaborate on that one?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, in my context, anyhow, I can't speak for others, but I said the biggest barrier is the absence of a stable, coordinated system that carries or can carry adaptation projects from assessment through delivery within the local capacity that exists at a community scale and within realistic timelines. Be it funding programs through our own government or at the federal level, there's a failure to understand the reality of the context within which I work anyhow, or this region of the country. And things don't happen. They happen at the speed of trust, is what we say, and that takes a long time to build the trust with people. And I've been here for 20 years doing it, and if I meet a new face, it's sort of you start again, regardless of my name amongst the peer group is known. If there's a person that, we're relying on to engage with, and they don't know me or others in the group, they're going to be reluctant to share. And so it takes like that time itself takes a significant amount before you can get to a point where you are able to go, okay, now, so how might we coordinate something that could advance this effort? Anyhow, so yeah, that was I guess the context anyhow is within which I'm working, which sort of motivated the comment.
That reminds me of we heard from someone at the energy sector who said that their team, they had someone on their staff who had a lot of knowledge and competency in climate change adaptation planning. and that person left the team. They moved on to another organization. And with that, they brought all of their knowledge, and the team that was left behind, unfortunately didn't have that, I suppose, champion or that person leading that. And so that stalled their efforts to advance. So it sounds a little bit similar, but yeah. Thanks, Cameron, for that insight. All right. How about group 2? Any thoughts? So this was Jorg, uh, Lisa.
Everybody else has turned their camera off. We were a very small
Okay.
group, so
Yeah, very small group. Yeah.
I can take a quick look at there was a theme about kind of learning from each other, obviously. I mean, that's the kind of the yeah, declared goal of the group, I guess, anyhow. And really understanding, what are the kinds of tools that are useful, and to what extent can they be transferred across sectors, but also in across different jurisdictions. There was an example of, sharing, forestry adaptation or biodiversity guidelines with with a neighboring jurisdiction, for example. We have toolkits for asset planning that need to be developed in order to actually, for especially in the engineering world, to make and perhaps most importantly, justify expenses. So determining the right level of investment and action that is needed is really important. And yeah, and then one of the things that we also discussed was that in some of the climate hazards that matter most to our respective industries are actually the ones where climate science is just simply not clear yet, and we don't know. There are huge uncertainties associated with it. We don't know which way it's going to go. So that again, feeds into. It can feed into risk, a risk-based approach, but it makes it difficult to kind of say with any kind of clarity, this is what we're going to see, and therefore this is the investment we're going to have to make.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
people also said that, working with others is going to be important. A collaboration space, finding regionally important information, yeah, and and having it as a resource to find updates on studies or reports from other jurisdictions.
Okay. Okay, excellent. Super. Great. Small but mighty team. All right, great. Thanks for your participation. Let's just wrap up here. So Sharma, I'll get just to switch ahead the slides. So here, the focus of this webinar was to introduce you to the project, to the group, but then also the focus was on the group, like how can it serve you, right? The next upcoming webinars are going to dig deeper into the findings that we have, preliminary findings, including the catalog itself, those list of drivers, enablers, and barriers, and then that'll be a chance there'll be more discussion on those, like people having an opportunity to share their professional experiences, and also hearing what we have found and saying, does this resonate with you? Have you experienced this yourself? Has your experience been slightly different? Just to try to either validate the list and the information that we have, or to build on it even more. It's a good opportunity as well to meet others in the respective sectors. Perhaps you'll want to continue talking offline about a particular problem or solution or example that you faced. And then I will be sending out a follow-up email after the webinar with information about those webinars, also a link to our sectoral surveys if you haven't already taken them. They're a little long, but they're really insightful and helpful for us. They've been informing our results. Really, it's been a strong source of information for us. And then I will also link to the mural board so that if you do think of anything else or you have some more time that you want to add some thoughts, you're certainly welcome to. We'll have a link to the recording of this webinar and the presentation slides as well. Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. And that's the link to the peer learning group. Head on there, make an account, and if you have any trouble or questions, reach out as well. And lean on the AI chat because they're really great at problem solving and troubleshooting some of those platform issues as well. Any questions from anyone? Okay. Okay. Well, thanks again, and we hope that you'll join us at the other webinars as well and on the group.
Hopefully everyone could sign up to the CanAdapt network too. So that'd be like a great place for us to collaborate on
Definitely.
implementation. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.